There is one singular sentence in philosophy that tends to end more philosophical interest than create. And that line, or that sentence, is when Albert Camus opens The Myth of Sisyphus, one of his most famous, if not his most famous piece of work, with that line. There's no build up to it, there's no slow burning or anything. It's just one truly, seriously philosophical problem. And Camus asks if it's suicide. He asks you, if this world has no meaning, should you just kill yourself? Everything else that philosophy has ever asked, whether or not the world has 3 dimensions, or whether the mind has 9 different categories, or 12, or any other semantic question, comes after that one philosophical revelation. Should you kill yourself if this world does not provide the necessity of information or reciprocation of any sort of effort that you give to the world? Camus called philosophy games. He called everything besides that question a game, and one must first answer that simple question before they are ever even able to call themselves a philosopher. Camus wrote that in 1942 in occupied France, and the question of whether or not life was worth living was not theoretical for the people who read that question. It was simply Tuesday. That is the life that they led back in that time. And Camus, I don't think he was really telling you to consider the act of actual suicide. I don't think he was telling you to actually kill yourself. But instead, in my opinion, the question was being used as a diagnostic. If you want to know whether or not a life has been built on something genuine, something real, ask the most extreme version of yourself, or the most extreme version of any question first. Because if you ask yourself, is life even worth continuing, you're going to get a lot more of a distinct answer than if you ask yourself, should I continue with this online business? Should I change my course in university? Should I quit my job, etc., right? Everything else, for instance, your opinions, your taste, or simply your theories even, your ideas in your mind, none of them really matter until you've answered whether or not the thing itself is worth the trouble, whether the life that you live is worth the trouble for all these little things behind it to make up the trouble in your mind. Most people never tend to ask themselves that question. They live entirely inside the games, inside the philosophy, right? Inside the fake revelations in their mind. They have the strong opinions about everything and everything that comes after the real question. So if you've never once sat with the real question itself, you will never find the true answer to it. So Camus, what he did was sit with it. Camus wrote his own philosophical, I guess you could say, magnum opus, and then sat with it himself. And his answer was not yes in the easy sense, and it also wasn't no in a black and white sense. In my opinion, it was a stranger answer, yet a lot more of a relief to hear that from such a genius, right? Camus called it the absurd. That is what is basically Camus' biggest philosophical ideology that's shared around nowadays. It is the absurdity, right? It was not silly, it was not a collision, it was you being on one side of the universe, built to demand meaning from the world, built to demand a reason to continue living or a purpose. You wanted your life to add up. You wanted your life to actually matter, or just to have a shape underneath it that you are able to follow. The universe, however, on the other side, offers nothing back to you. It offers you no reason, no structure, no purpose. Everything we just talked about that the human demands, it gives you none of those. And matter continues to move according to simply laws that are indifferent to whether or not you find those laws meaningful. The universe exists, and you hunt for its existence. So Camus said that the absurd is basically what happens when those two things meet together, yet neither of them yield to one another. You continue to demand from the world, and the world continues to not answer back, right? That gap, that distance, that polarity between you and the universe is completely permanent, and it's unclosable in Camus' eyes, right? It is the absurd. The whole point is that once you've felt the absurd, once you've come to the conclusion that this world will not provide you with meaning, and not just through watching videos like this or reading about it, but instead literally feeling it, like genuinely experiencing that you create your own purpose, you never unfeel that feeling. It stops being the abstract philosophy of absurdism and instead becomes the floor that you actively live your life upon. Most philosophies try to close that gap in a sense, right? Religion tells you there is a reason, you just can't see it yet, so you live your life for that reason that will come post-mortem. Most secular meaning making tells you that building your own reason will make the gap feel smaller to an extent. Camus was the only one, maybe not the only one, but the most prominent figure who said that this is philosophical suicide. Not the body, but instead the question that inhibits the body. Reaching for a sort of comfort that evidence will never end up supporting just to make the gap between you and the universe stop hurting. It may shrink temporarily, but it will never close. It is like trying to put two magnets together which have the same facing polarity, right? They cannot ever be put together, no matter how much you try. So Camus answered just to stay inside of the absurd, right? Don't kill yourself literally or philosophically. Live at the fullest intensity that you can offer to life inside of a universe that offers nothing back to you, a universe that will never answer you, and call that living honestly, genuinely. Be honest in the life that you lead, knowing that you will never get a response from the universe. That is the whole argument that Camus makes, right? That is it. Because it doesn't make the gap disappear, and instead it acknowledges that it cannot close, yet refuses to lie about its existence. So I'm not going to tell you what you have to do with that knowledge, because I can't force you to start living. And neither can Camus. Reading his content is not going to allow you to start living absurdly or start living fully, right? But just because he didn't have an answer at the end of any of his book for this idea, it didn't stop him from handing you a man pushing up that boulder, right? It didn't stop him from representing the idea of the absurd through Sisyphus, the man who pushed the boulder up the hill forever. And the simple sentence of "we must imagine Sisyphus as happy" is, in my opinion, the entire resolution. That sentence is the one you should be doubting, yet also agreeing with to any sort of extent. So if this video, maybe it's probably about 7 minutes by now, if this video is not enough time, not enough information for a question like that, right? It's not enough room for you to genuinely think about and answer that question. I recently built my own website, soon to hopefully be an app, that allows you to sit with it, right? It's the actual passage that I've just been talking about, everything in this video, embed into that website. It's the real translation of that content, worth reading slowly rather than the way I summarized it into a 6 to 8 minute video, right? It's a handful of questions, sort of an allegory to the idea of Camus' absurdism, and it allows you to question whether or not his philosophy holds up against how any single person lives in today's day and age. There's no rush for you to go to that website. It's not going anywhere. But in my opinion, I think you should check it out, right? Because that is exactly what I built this website, Aporia, for. It's just a communal page for you to share your thoughts on this week's philosophy. Think of it as a weekly newsletter where you share your ideas and you share your responses to the philosophical questions to anyone who wants to read it, or to yourself even, right? That's it. So this week's entire content is about Camus, asking the simple one question which he thought nothing mattered before it.